We
The
are
rest I have seen this week.
live.
Okay.
We are live, and this is Women Matters, the edition of August 2018. And we are the English speaking women group of the wisdomfactory.net. And today we want to talk about women and sexuality. And I think it's a topic we all know a little bit about. We want to explore what does it mean in our lives and in society and so on. We see we are, as always, co-creative uh, conversation, and we will see where we end up. We start with saying who we are. I'm Heidi Hörnlein. I'm in Italy, and I'm the founder of the wisdomfactory.net. And also, my home here is paradisointegrale.com, which is a nonprofit organization under which we do, or we, now I'm alone. My husband died, so it's me doing the sessions under this cover of the nonprofit organization Il Paradiso Integrale in Umbria in Italy. I think that's enough for me now. And who wants to go next? Oh, first I have to say we have a new member here, and maybe we ask her to be next. This is Lucy.
Sure, I can go next. My name's Lucy Rist. I'm originally from the UK, but I live in Sweden. I've been here for 8 years. And I run a charity called Girls in Sport here in Sweden that uses sport and activities outdoors, movement and the body as a tool for social change. So we work a lot with gender equality, social inclusion, health and well-being, all these kind of things. And in a former life, I was in research. So I worked with environmental sustainability and management, mostly in tropical countries. But now my focus is much more society and sport and making all of those connections. So thank you for having me here and letting me join in.
Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy our company.
I'm sure I'm going to.
Okay. Whoever wants to come next.
I'll go next, seeing as I've been away for a while. Good morning and good evening and all the time zones that we're in. Hi, everyone. I'm Luna Ciavelli, and I'm a facilitator, and I work with a form of family systems therapy called family constellation work. I work with families and individuals and started working with children last year. And I'm also a nutritional and holistic health coach and do blood analysis. So I'm looking at reconnecting us with our wholeness and empowering from the inside out. And I'm always happy to be here with you, amazing women, and share wisdom. Thank you.
I'll jump in. I'm Tammy Lee Meyer, and I'm a media experimentalist and systems thinker, and basically a human being that knows that we need to work together towards change, and that change, as Luna says, comes from within. So I'm motivated to work with people to see how we can lean together towards the change that we want. And there's a few of us here that have been participating with the Global Challenges collaboration, which has been a wonderful space to grow connection, to really look at what challenges we face and how we can meet them in a good way. And I am going on holiday tomorrow with a person that I've never met in person, but have a very deep connection with. And so I'm really excited to try a new adventure, which is experiencing love and connection and not working for 3 weeks in a row. So that's me today. I'm honored and pleased to be here in this group.
All right.
How come I feel so old today when I look at you, all your young faces? It's a pleasure to look at you all. And I'm Monia. I live in Vienna, in Austria, and we are in the middle of a terrible heat wave, and everybody is wilting. And to talk about sex is about the least thing I have on my mind now. Anyway, it's a pleasure being with you, and I will let you talk about it, and then maybe I just jump in a little. It's great to see you all.
Yeah, I take the last. I'm Gertraud. I'm living north of Frankfurt in Germany. And I'm a coach, a business consultant, and a trainer, and an author. We published a book last year about our main topic, which is appreciation. How to have appreciation as the basis of being a business, of collaboration. And that's the most important part. And my mission is being source of appreciation for people and organizations worldwide. So, and I love to see your sweet faces all together. So there's only one missing, Anna, and I hope she can come. She can join us.
Yeah, she might not be able. She wrote to me, so next time. Anyway, today you say it's hot, and with hot, sexuality is a little less exciting, but we don't have to do it. We just have to talk. So, the topic women and sexuality. I would like in the circle of women to explore a little bit what sexuality means and meant so far in your life and what you expect of it. And then also, is there a difference, for instance, in our sexuality as women to that of men and things like that? And who has an idea? I invite you to jump in. And then we see where we go.
I'd like to report actually that Luna and I just went to Pussy Talks the other day, which was an amazing group of, there was 15 women gathered, and we watched a film that was women's vaginas up close, like basically up close, and them speaking in real time. So no faces, just their voices and their private parts and maybe their hands. And it was really a celebration of women's bodies, and also deeply confronting, because so many of us in the share afterwards were like, well, we're not even allowed to look at that. And how many women had reported that they hadn't actually seen their vaginas until maybe 40 or 50 or not at all. And it was really, really powerful for me because I have my own blocks, and I noticed myself being very confronted and like sweating and like just coming up next to, I think, the social conventions that kind of wrap around me that I've been affected by. But it was so amazing and nourishing to be kind of going on this journey where I'm going to be exploring my sexuality and have this kind of teed off by really being in a company of women and looking at what it is to actually just celebrate ourselves. And it was really powerful. I'd love to hear also Luna's perceptions and reflections on it. But yeah, I'm going to throw that in the ring for us to for us to consider together. Luna.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just speaking at a festival last weekend, and the year prior, I met this amazing sister named Jade Mason. And Jade is doing some really beautiful work around empowering women in their bodies and with their cycles. And so her and her business partner, Melissa, not sure what Melissa's last name is, presented this film for a group of women so that we could sit together and start to normalize this part of our bodies that's just been so cloaked and hidden. And, you know, in a lot of, for a lot of us, there's been a lot of shame around having a vagina and even using the word. I remember using the word when I was younger and having other young women squirm. And so it's this real reclamation work that I think is so powerful. and that there's something that happens in our bodies as women. Just I felt in that group for us to just sit in that space together and witness these amazing, brave, courageous women who shared with us their vaginas and their relationships with their vaginas. And some of them were sort of in an earlier part in their journey, and others had been cultivating a relationship with their vaginas for some time. And it's really got me thinking about how I can even speak more directly to my own pussy and have a relationship with her. I was sharing with the group that I have one amazing sister who, when she calls me, she'll say, "How's your pussy doing today?" how's your pussy, sister? How's your heart? And it's just so beautiful for us to really empower ourselves around our whole bodies. And I get so excited about us becoming totally transparent in all these areas that we've kept hidden, for both men and women, and what that would look like if we were to normalize our sexuality, our bodies, and to be really open about our relationships with our whole selves, including everything, including nothing left out.
I find it
And
interesting that, oh, excuse me, I thought you had finished.
yeah, go.
Yeah,
There's
because,
always more to say about sex. You go.
yeah, it was not yet about sex, it was about vaginas and acceptance, no? And I think this is a special and very, very special case of the tendency of non-accepting our whole body, because who likes their bodies? Like, I have read in a study in the Western world about 3% are really, really happy with their body. And all the others are too fat or too thin or too high or too, whatever it is, and don't look like from the fashion magazine. And I did that, what I think I shared it already once, when I read the book Femophobia, the phobia of being a woman. And afterwards, for about 3 months, I had a big mirror. I put myself every evening in front of the mirror 5 minutes. And I tell you, it was really hard at the beginning to look at me and not to look somewhere else, or at least to not to tell me, oh, look, this and this and this. And oh God. So imagine even the vagina, which you normally don't see without major gymnastics. So I think it's a good thing that we begin to accept more our bodies, our naked bodies. They are still, you know, in Germany, for instance, we go to the sauna, men and women naked. That's no problem. And in other countries, oh gosh, we jump on each other, or I don't know if that is the fear. So nakedness, body, and sexuality seem somehow synonymous, although they are not. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, I just love it, the way you bring it private parts that are usually hidden. To me, and I'm now 76, happened the amazing grace that men still want my body and my soul and my heart. So whenever I look into the mirror, I tell myself, okay, obviously there's more to it than just the way everything slumps and everything is, everything is much different than it was about 40 years ago, where I had a very beautiful body, and Heidi, I always liked my body. And now I'm a hetero, and now the man sort of gave me my body back. And that's amazing. That's quite amazing. So I don't see my pussy, they do. That's different. Yeah. I always liked my body. What it could, and sexuality was very important to me. I'm a Scorpio, so maybe this matters, I don't know. But it always opened me a deep connection, and not every man is fit for a connection like that. The men shy back, and yeah, religious hang-ups, whatever. Yeah, but I was just trying to imagine that movie. It's I don't know, maybe I would have just, I don't know, I've never seen anything like that before, because usually I look into people's eyes when I talk to them. Okay, so that's my conservative approach. Okay, thank you.
I saw a photography exhibition once that was similar. So they were just stills of lots of women's vaginas, and they're all so diverse, which for me was just, it was fantastic to see vagina after vagina after vagina, and all, you know, every single piece was different. There was so much variation, and there was something very beautiful about seeing all of that together. But when I reflected on what we were going to talk about today, there was a strange mix of feelings. There was actually kind of a fear that I realized there's so much that's not been talked about, I've never had the space to talk about. There's some awareness of things undiscovered that are maybe scary to think what might I uncover, but also kind of an excitement and a looking forward, because I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to have this conversation with a group of women. I do it with women who are close friends. And I love the idea about saying, hey, how's your vagina? I'm going to do that with a couple. Because we have conversations, you know, about our intimate lives, and, you know, what's good and what's bad, and how it can energize us and what we want more of. But to add that to a greeting, I think is really, it brings that part of the conversation kind of out of the closet a little bit, that, you know, to have it as a very everyday piece of life, because it is that for many of us. Yeah, I'm keen to see this film. I'm really interested how I would feel sitting there watching. I can imagine it's quite an intense experience. So maybe that's something to follow up with if it comes to Europe.
Going on with what Lucy said, it's not only to talk with women we just talk about once a month in this constellation, but also doing it live on the air for traceable. I think that's also not the easiest part. And I'm just there's one part missing, and that is power and violence. And I think might be religion, but this overpowering part, and that for many it's hard to talk about because it's so sensitive, because so many, for many people, and we're lucky if nothing bad happened. Yeah, so this part is also important, how to talk about, and how to have an easygoing relationship, and a appreciative, loving relationship with my own body, with my vagina. That there was a bumpy road before, so yeah, for me. Yeah. And thanks for being here and sharing your part.
So we go a little bit, you said power. I mean, we know the power which often men use towards women with sexuality. On the other hand, sexuality has always been for women to use their power to withdraw sexuality, to make men to to behave in the way they want to, or similar things. So for me, when we talk about power, we need to talk about both sides. And for me, to grow as women, we need to become aware how we use our sexuality. If we, for instance, go, I mean, I'm not in this, I've never really noticed that men were looking at me even when I was young. Yeah. But if I dressed like, sexy and everything, and then I'm wondering that somebody in the comes by and gives a slash on the butt, as many men have used to do time ago. So where is the origin of that, and if isn't it a play together when at the end very undeveloped men use their brutal physical power. So for me, it was important that I understood that I tried with flirting to get some advantage from men, and I decided I don't want that because it's not okay, and that's, in my opinion, what we women need to do to address the point power.
Thanks, Heidi. One of the things that just sort of came up as you were sharing for me was about so I've just completed 1 year of intentional celibacy, and it's been a really deep journey for me. And one of the things that I was able to track was the ways in which I felt that my sexual energy didn't really belong to me. And that wasn't something that I was conscious of until I really started to track my sexual energy and look at it and cultivate it within myself and keep it for myself. And another thing that I really that really struck me about this film, Pussy Talks, is that the women who had spent time cultivating this relationship with their vaginas, what a gift that was to the men as well. It really struck me what a gift that is to men when we cultivate a deep, loving relationship with our sexuality being our own. And in that way, we can clearly communicate with them what we need and how it is that we work with our sexual energy. And that the divine masculine, in its healthy form, the masculine energy really wants to serve, to be of service, and to be able to have that clear communication, to spend that time with ourselves, where we're not just sort of throwing around and, you know, in conditioned patterns of trying to get something with it, or use it to have needs fulfilled because I haven't spent the time figuring out what that is inside myself. Yeah, just what a deep gift. What a deep gift that is for healing for both men and women. That's what really, really struck me, actually, about witnessing these courageous women and just witnessing their vaginas in that relationship. Was what a deep gift that is to the men. And how that can help us move forward in a good way for healing.
I saw a video on exactly that topic this morning. It was called Women Talk to Men, something like that, I think. And there was a group of women, they were kind of repeating the message, you know, how these videos often go, saying, kind of apologizing, or basically the story was of acknowledging how we haven't had the opportunity to discover our own sexuality so that we can communicate that clearly to a partner. And we're kind of looking to this partner to fill that need, to understand how our body works and what we need, and so that we have a role also in, you know, in that whole process. And that many of these women said they'd been so disappointed with their sexual experiences, and that comes out in a kind of bitterness, resentment, withholding of our sexual energy, and so this kind of circle goes on. So I think it is, as Heidi mentioned, it is really important we look at both pieces of the picture. I just want to share, I had a memory just came back. I used to live in Switzerland, and I had this amazing doctor there. She was a natural doctor. She had this little cabin in the woods. And so I went to her for contraceptive advice. And I think at some point I had a smear test. And she gave me a mirror and she showed me my cervix, which was the most fascinating thing. You know, and I was maybe 26 at that point. I'd never seen it before. And I started thinking, like, this is something that we should all have the chance to, you know, to be able to see that and go, wow, that's how my body is. Yeah, the memory just popped into mind, so I thought I'd add that one.
I was just thinking of what Heidi was talking about, the dressing sexy and things like that. There might be a power game, but also having 3 girls. I know that we are often talking about creating safe space for people to share and things like that. And I think that girls and boys in puberty need to have that safe space in which they can explore themselves and express themselves without it's her fault, you know, because she was so sexy and so she invited me. That's often the excuse, but really having that space that fathers, uncles, whoever, let them experience and play around and really get this blossom to the bud to blossom, and without the fear to be overpowered. And I think that that's an important thing, because when that is not possible, then we go into the power games, and then then women try to get along with that and use this underdog power, so to say, to mess around with. And if power comes into play of any sort, it ruins the game, I think. So, yeah, creating that safe space in which this can arise and try it out and see how that works. and getting the first hormone flash and see what happens, but not in fear. Yeah.
I got into resonance with Luna's statement that the male sexual energy should be of service to the female, which is a tantric, yeah, a tantric, the basic tantric concept. And to have a space where you trust each other and you trust also Eros, and you let yourself be carried along. But to find a man who wants to be of service is maybe not that easy. And in our younger times, it was almost impossible. But when you are lucky, then you are lucky.
So I'd like to share a little bit of my present time experience, which is I'm having a really deep awakening, and a little bit of context. I've for the main chosen celibacy for a decade and a half plus. I've had some companions, but I've known really deep inside me how much actually happens when you open your sexuality. And so in the year 2000, I had a bunch of insights around that. And two things. One, knowing that we're sharing like direct information with our DNA and on the soul level and all of these pieces. And so I was very reticent to go there, because I had some experiences with a lover that were really quite mind-blowing. And I realized that I needed to take responsibility for that myself and be very discerning with who I let into my world. And at the same time, I also realized that on the emotional side of things, when I go into relationship, it changes my life, and it might not be my life that I'm in the center of, but our life. And I have a real commitment to the work that I do, and I inside myself really committed to that as the fundament and not relationship. And so over the last few months, I've developed a really deep connection and bond with a person that some of us know, Harry. And he's flying from the Netherlands to Vancouver tomorrow, and we're going on a 3-week holiday. And so I'm very consciously entering into a connection which who knows what will happen? What's up with the pheromones? Do we like how each other smell? Like, we don't know any of that. There's a strong baseline of a friendship and you know, a depth of connection that's really powerful. So regardless of what happens, we're gonna, I feel that we're gonna have fun. We're gonna enjoy ourselves. But there's this space that's opening where I have an opportunity to be with my sexuality in a completely different way than I ever have, and to consciously choose to be in relationship with someone, knowing that it may not be, who knows what, we don't know, and yet being open to just being really vulnerable, and and so I'm excited to see what's going to emerge there without putting too much on it. Here I am in a live broadcast talking about it, which is crazy. But also, you know, I want to be real and authentic with my current experience and share with you all that this is an amazing experience that I've called into my life. And yeah, so I'll just put all that on the table with so much gratitude for, I've had a lot of love and support in with other women in helping me to get to a place where, and other people, just to, I'm grateful for my journey. And part of what I'm trying to say is I'm really grateful for Luna, because Luna and I live in the same home and are really powerful journeyers in life together. And I just want to say also, Luna, thank you so much for your love and support and helping me to be way more comfortable with my sexuality and normalizing these things, like going to Pussy Talks the other day. Like, that was really powerful. But just personally, I really appreciate your love and support and modeling a new way of being with sexuality for me.
Tammy, I wish you all the best, and I think that's good start this way. I did it with Mark in this way, and that was the most amazing relationship I had in my life, and I had a few. And also that from the point of view of sexuality, because you first get to know each other from a different level, and the sexuality comes later. And so it's, I lived it so much more free than ever. It was not covered with all the expectations and so on. And you will see that if it is or if it is not, it's somehow, it doesn't mean the same thing as when you were 30 or 15 or something like that. And a relationship can grow in a different way when it is not so, sexuality is not the uh, most important thing, and everything goes around in a positive or negative way, you know, but when the foundation is somewhere else. And I can only tell you, well done, and go on your journey, and I hope you will have the same experience as I had with Mark.
Thank you. I just want to say that when I was feeling into your relationship with Mark, I did feel some similarities in how energetically it felt. And yeah, just wanted to say that out loud as well.
I think it's also not only a journey in which everything is going in one direction, whatever that might be, but ups and downs, times of no connection at all, and then again, very deep. And after 30 years, 32 years, really finding out that there have been very low points and pretty high ones, and that it's all part of that journey. And and realizing that in the last year or so, there was, I thought it's rather, as if there was a high peak and then it goes down again. But I realized, being 62, that there is the possibility of always having a change and always going deeper and having experiences that I couldn't have with 30. And around the kids, it's also different. So when you are busy with raising kids, it feels different than when you have just some time to have that grow together. So so and love can be deeper and deeper, and I hope that journey will go on. And Monia, it's nice to hear that from you, because I mean, there's a few years in between. I thought, well, if I talk this way with 76, I'm very happy. And I might add that the men have to go through their journey as well. And there sometimes it's like going this way, and sometimes somebody wants to go close, and so it's not always parallel or always together. It's really this meandering thing. And being able to talk to each other, that I was not able 30 years ago in the way I can talk today.
That's what I wanted to add. Humor helps a lot. Talking in a new way, being connected to your hara, so that you are centered, and when the other person also is. But Tammy talked about pheromones. Yeah, they are really an aphrodisiac. So even if the man, okay, but I never learned that when I was young, that pheromones are very important. And now I know, but amazingly, now I smell less. That's because of my nose operations and so on. But still, I can smell. But pheromones don't turn me on anymore. So it's other things now that really turn me on. When I feel that there is this service, as you mentioned, Luna, the willing to serve not just a woman, but Eros as such. This is, that's what I learned now. And I said I had to become that old to learn that, because I didn't know that before, and now I know. So, Gertrude, you have something to look forward to.
May I just come back? I had a boyfriend once for a very short time. We had nice conversation, everything was okay, but really coming closer, in German there is a saying, ich konnte ihn nicht riechen. I couldn't, the translation doesn't translate. But I mean, I couldn't smell him. I didn't want, I was offended by his smell. And it was really like, it was this, I just couldn't have him close enough because of the smell. And so nothing was possible. And I felt bad about it, and it took me some time, but then I just realized, no way. And but I didn't tell him that clearly as I did today, but somehow I just believed myself. But that was a very intense feeling, intense sensing. And that's different with my husband right now.
That feels like a really important part that you just said, listening to yourself. Like I had some hard moments of realizing certain choices I made that I really didn't take care of myself. Because I didn't know any better. You know, I was going on the information that I had, and I filled the role that I thought I should fill. And some of these things never felt quite right. And that's taken, that's taken me till where I am now, I think, to realize some of those lessons. So being able to listen to that, like, inner voice that's telling you what you want and how and with who and how much and all of these things, rather than overriding them because of what's expected of you or pressure or and I wish we taught girls this stuff. I wish we had these conversations with really young girls so that we empowered them to have this inner compass and to start their journey so much younger. You know, I'm amazed at how many friends that I have who still talk about their period as if it's such a pain. You know, it's this inconvenience. And for me, that was true also at one point. But now it's become, you know, like a reliable friend. And I wish that we also taught to girls when they were young. There's even a sadness that I have of having missed that opportunity. You know, how much wisdom was there to be gained in those young years that I could have used if I'd have known that I had this kind of special, I don't know, toolkit or secret weapon, or, you know, to have that, all of that information and knowledge to navigate with would have been fantastic. But now I'm catching up, and it sounds like the journey keeps going. So that all sounds really exciting. It sounds really exciting.
Comes to my mind that obviously even your younger generations have these experiences. So what could we do as, let's say, developed women to help younger women to have that knowledge? I just throw it in here to brainstorm a little bit. Maybe not today, but generally, what could we do actually to give out the knowledge which we painfully have learned? Also, with me, shortly before I went into menopause, I came to an acceptance of the menstruation. Only 2 years or so before, you know, because I didn't know. Same thing in many ways. So.
I even think it's more important today than maybe even the times when I was young. But it's different. But today I saw a report how the social media culture is really going against girls. It's how they look, how much likes they get, what photo they have. So it's this instant gratification thing, and that girls are more exposed than before, and that it's very hard for them to stand their ground and be who they are, with all the peers just not liking. It's more like absence of liking and or dissing with unfavorable photos or things like that, and that exposes the girls more than the boys. So I think it's even more important today to give them strength to survive in that realm. It doesn't mean that we didn't have hard times, but in that way, it's like you don't have a chance to be yourself and to have that safe space. You don't have a safe space in that. So I don't have an answer exactly to your question, Heidi. I just wanted to emphasize it, that it's really important to support girls. And I wanted to talk to my daughter, who has a girl of 4 years almost, and I think it's important to teach them how to use social media, etc., to not being sexualized, but being that sexual being, authentic being, and yeah.
I wonder, Gerhard, have you ever talked to your daughter about sex? Because I tried to talk, about 2 years ago, I tried to talk to my older daughter, and she sort of blushed and closed the door. And I just last week, I said, well, I tried. She said, yes, you don't talk about sex to your mother. Okay. So if there are peers enough, then it's all right. But I really try to support my granddaughters, both of them. But you shouldn't forget that the younger one, who is now 15, she is so independent because of her older peers, her older sisters, her brother and her sister. I'm amazed. I wish I would have had this. I don't know. There is a new kind of strength I sense in them. And her older sister, 6 years older, is much shyer, and she is the sandwich child. So there are so many different aspects of this. And yeah, but I talk to my grandchildren. I can't talk to my daughters, but I talk to my grandchildren. That's the way it is.
Maybe that's the best part. I have a daughter who says, no way I can talk with my mother about that. And if it's not personal, I mean, like my relationship with or so, then there's some ways, but it's not so easy. We'll see how it.
And I can't because I just ask, well, how are you? How is it going? And no, not even that. Nothing. So, what can you do? It's it's a generation gap. I don't know what it is.
I wonder if it has something to do that, out there in society, in the media, it's a bit like women's sexuality is only acceptable if you're young and you look a certain way, and, that carries over, that we think we would talk to, somebody younger, which is such a shame. But I wonder if that has something to do with it.
I didn't talk about my sexuality. I wanted to see if everything was going fine. They have been married for 20 years now. They have 3 wonderful children. I just went, well, how is it going? No way. But I have been supported by my tantric lover that sexuality will go on and on and on. And I sort of shrunk back. In my 80s, I don't want to do it. In my 80s, I should be wise and above it. But on the other hand, okay, let's just see. It's that's how I opened up to these non-societal aspects of sex.
Yeah, I think the ageism is big, and elder people shouldn't have sex. I saw it also when with the daughter of Mark, the one who died 5 years ago, and when we came to visit her, and we only said a little bit about that we enjoyed sex, and she parents shouldn't do sex at all. So yeah, it's a strange shyness which is connected with sexuality. I don't even think anybody tells you that you should think that your parents shouldn't have sex, but it somehow, I don't know where that comes from.
Mm. On a powerful force she is, and how I'm feeling sort of sad hearing about this disconnection. And just thinking, coming from this gathering last week, I had created a red tent, and the woman that I mentioned earlier, Jade Mason, her workshop, and other women gave their workshops on on coming together as women and all ages and being able to talk about our cycles. But I also just thinking about not only educating the young ones, but creating spaces where there's all ages that come together and share our wisdom. Young men, and that for so many young men, not only is the woman a mystery, but that they believe that we bleed each month, and that there's so much sort of disgust or shame that happens around that. And a friend of mine who's a facilitator as well sent me a little tag on a fellow male facilitator who's doing some really beautiful work with young people, where he's teaching young men about women's menstruation. And he says something to the effect of, do you want to go through your entire life not understanding what half of the population goes through every month, not feeling connected with them in that way? And so I would like to talk with him more and learn. He's teaching young people about this, because I feel like it's really important work. And to have young men get on board and really understand women's bodies. So I just wanted to mention that, because I think it's really important. And I would love more with all of you about some things that we can be doing, especially being working with kids. And I've been noticing the dynamics with the girls and wondering about how to bridge those gaps. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and creating space where we can really hear the wisdom of our elders. Um, um, Connecting and having more elders in my life that are mentors and that I'm spending time with. I just realized, I didn't realize how starved I was, how hungry I was for that wisdom and for that connection, to be brought in and to hear about other women's experiences. Mm-hmm. We all have a sex education, but it's usually, with the lights turned out behind closed doors, and we don't talk about it. And that's our sex education. It's sort of what happened that we sort of fumbled our way into or out of, or yeah. So let's bring it into the light.
I think we have already begun today to do that, and it was a wonderful conversation. I thank you so much, and I'm very willing the next time that we continue somehow on the street and see what comes out. I found it very inspiring to talk with you about these things. I did talk in my life a little bit about these things, but it's different. Here we are so many different generations and the countries, cultures, and so on. It's really great. I thank you very much for having been so open today. Also, it is live and people can see it. I think this makes also the difference in the credibility, because when we begin to make lessons about sex should be or not be or whatever, that's different than sharing our own experience and what is important to us. So we will meet next month and continue this talk. Thank you very much and bye-bye.